digital realm. The breakdown in law and order in the fractured nation puts any Libyan, even suspected of interested in Christianity, in grave danger of being detained, tortured, and even killed. Now, that tells you, Tower, that, when we really talk about this, when the Dark One gets here, the Antichrist, he's going to have the mark of the beast, and he'll have online monitored all the time. You won't be able to get away with nothing. So
and he will
it's just
make
a matter
war.
of time. Even now they can tell what you're doing.
Yeah, and he'll make war with the Christians.
Yeah, he will. The surge in persecution against Christians in North Africa, there's a number of factors. The new year brought a sharper divide between the Muslim majority world and the Western world order. While a complex geopolitical factor that reaches far beyond North Africa, the ongoing conflict in Israel-Gaza is perceived by many in the Muslim majority world as a form of Western tyranny against Muslim lands. The United States is still seen by many around the world as a center of global Christian evangelization. And with most Americans and evangelicals firmly putting their political support behind Israel in the latest Middle East conflict, North African Protestant groups, which represent the majority of indigenous Christians in North African countries, are experiencing great backlash and persecution through assumed association. Hence, in the deeply Islamic nations of North Africa, the tiny numbers of national Christians, particularly Protestant groups, that come from Muslim backgrounds are sometimes unfairly perceived and suspected of siding with the Christian West or Zionism. The perceived growth of Christian communities in predominantly Muslim nations in North Africa has heightened anxieties among certain segments of the population, especially extremist Islamic groups. In some cases, Christians are viewed as a threat to the prevailing religious and social order, leading to increased discrimination and persecution. Well, the bottom line of it is that we've been covering, the persecuted church for a long time, and it's been increasing all along, whether you want to blame the West or blame Israel. And this is exactly what these governments do. Anything to admit that it's their own policies that actually are bringing persecution. These people live to persecute and kill and rape, and a lot of these other type of things follow Islam. It's not the Christians that are going around committing jihad. It's not the Christians that are going around and burning down the temples of the Muslims. It's not the Christians that are beheading Muslims. This is entirely, in this last days, all the persecution, all the trouble can be traced to Islam. Whether they want to admit it or not, that's where it's traced to. And that's the bottom line. And so the Muslims aren't going to change. There are a few that don't do the things that these people do, but these people are gaining in influence and fervor. Many of them can't wait to have a global jihad. They're all waiting for the Mahdi, Iran, and their Ayatollah over there for a long time, even before this guy got in. The others, I was talking about they're waiting for the Mahdi many, many years ago. They were waiting for the Mahdi. And now, well, especially recently, because of Biden giving Iran a bunch of money, Iran funneled it out to Muslim groups, and that's how Hamas ended up attacking Israel. And how we got in the mess we are today is because of Joe Biden giving money to Iran. Iran is not our friend. Red China is not our friend. And that matter, there's a lot of people in our government that isn't our friend.
Yes,
America's
that's true.
divided. We've got open borders. And then they come on and warn us and tell us that, we've got, threats from Hamas and others. Well, the dove factor is here because any moron knows that when you keep your borders wide open like our did with President Biden, that's what's going to happen. And the Republicans and Democrats, all they do is fight, which it helps the enemies of America. So it's time for America to get off their lazy butts. It's time for these senators to stop fighting. Get rid of some of these old senators like Schumer and Pelosi and a few others, and get in there and get the border problem solved. Or you're going to regret it. Because you're going to be met.
We already do regret it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be worse.
Well, the thing of it is, they're going to be attacking. We haven't had the attacks yet, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
If we don't get the border secured, and if we don't stop this nonsense and protect it, America is not going to be a good place to live for many of you. So, at any rate, are you ready?
Yes. Escaping North Korea. This story comes to us via globalchristianrelief.org. Eun Young, a North Korean defector, never heard of Jesus Christ as a young teenager. After her daring escape to South Korea, she learned the truth about God's Word and the troubling statistic that an estimated 70,000 persecuted Christians in North Korea are imprisoned because of their faith. Have you ever wondered what life is like inside secretive North Korea? Eun Young, a brave North Korean defector, provides a brief glimpse. In her youth, Eun Young had never heard of God, so as a teenager she began to focus on worldly things. Her main objective involved making money in hopes of achieving a certain level of status and acceptance in North Korea. She remembers the nation's cult-like worship of leader Kim Jong-un and the hard labor camps that awaited anyone acting in defiance of the government's strict rules. But around the age of 13, when she fled her homeland, she was largely unaware of the vast number of persecuted Christians in North Korea. Because expressing interest in religion is enough for someone to possibly be detained, imprisoned, tortured, or killed, the government views Christians as a hostility and attempts to eliminate God completely. As such, many North Koreans lack knowledge and understanding regarding the Christian faith and the underground church. After her risky escape, Eun Young was led to Christ by a South Korean pastor. She wept upon learning that she had a loving Father in heaven guiding her to freedom. Now, when she reflects on her previous life in North Korea, a Bible verse from Ecclesiastes 1:2 comes to mind. Everything is meaningless. She explained, back then I was only thinking about money. Now I see those things and materials as meaningless. God has changed my perspective.
That's right.
Yes. Today, Eun Young has found true meaning and purpose in her walk with Christ. She is filled with the fruits of the Spirit and ministers to other North Korean refugees who are just discovering the love of God for the very first time. She longs to carry the gospel back to her homeland to reach millions of others who remain in the dark. And now that she has learned about their plight, she holds in fervent prayer the estimated 70,000 North Korean believers who are imprisoned for their faith, many of whom may be trapped in the country's hard labor camps.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It is. I'm thankful she came to the Lord, came to know Him.
Yeah, when they start talking like that, you know the Lord's touched them.
Yeah, I wonder who she escaped with family or by herself.
I don't know.
Be interesting to hear more of her story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is more of that. That story is just one part of it.
So you may find more at globalchristianrelief.org.
Now I want to talk. This is from barnabasaid.org. They're also talking about northern Mozambique. We were talking about Africa earlier. The increasing persecution in North Africa, persecution.org. And then we've got another one. This is from barnabasaid.org. Now, both of these organizations are talking about this. The only thing about this, it shows villages burning, and they were set afire by ISIS. Islamists have boasted of killing 10 Christians in a series of attacks over 2 weeks against Christian villages in northern Mozambique. You know, there's just so much violence going on all the time.
All over the world. I just hate it.
The onslaught claimed by Islamic State, or known as ISIS or Daesh, coincided with the launch on January 4th, 2024, of their new global terror campaign. That's the ISIS or ISIL. And their campaign is kill them wherever you find them. Yeah. Now, does that tell you, exactly what these people do? You know, and so we talked in the other story, you know, that the increasing violence, increasing Christian persecution, and one of the reasons it is because these people are dead set on bringing in World War III, another global jihad, and killing as many Christians. They would love it if they could kill every Christian on the face of this earth and have them all lined up, and you know, because they believe, you know, the scripture does say that there's coming a time when those that kill you will think that they are doing God a service, and that's exactly what the Muslims, jihadists, believe.
That is a fact.
You know, that is an absolute dead-ringing fact. And of course, the fact of it is, if you live in some of these areas, it is dangerous, because I can tell you most of these Christians living in these villages, they are not there to make war. You know, they have tools and things to work the ground. They have tools and things to get animals for food or whatever. But, yeah, and so this is really where we're at in this. And this is why it's so tragic. And there was another district that got hit. And, you know, they killed 3 residents. Okay, just 3 of them. But they burned down a church along with 60 houses.
Oh.
And 2 days later, they hit another village. They murdered another 3 Christians. And they burned over 70 houses and 3 motorcycles. These people are going literally from village to village. And then
terrible.
On January 7th, for instance, gunmen opened fire with machine guns on a village in the same district where these others were. And all the residents escaped unhurt, but as they fled, the marauders set fire to nearly 40 houses. And 2 Christians were murdered and 16 houses burned down. Now, you know, the bottom line of it is that Barnabas states openly, stop the genocide of Christians. Yeah, 1,800 Christians have been murdered in northern Mozambique since 2017. There are more than 50,000 Christians slaughtered in a genocidal campaign waged by Islamists across parts of sub-Saharan Africa. The worst affected area is northern and middle belt Nigeria, where around 45,000 believers have been killed since 2009. Now, if you don't think there's a jihad against Christians, then you ain't listening. Can you believe that?